With everybody talking about making America healthy again, I thought today'd be a great day to talk to all my fellow patriots about the importance of making your homes healthy again. Well, we have proudly partnered with airwaterhealing.com and their revolutionary whole home air purification system. The V3 from Airwater Healing does 3,000 square feet of purification. It eliminates dust, mold, viruses, and odors. But here's the part I love. They require no filters to ever be changed and virtually no maintenance. Whether you suffer from asthma, allergies, seasonal bronchitis, or just want to protect your family from the flu or even greater threats, don't wait to get your V3 from airwaterhealing.com today. Use code Lindell for 20% off in savings and free shipping. That's promo code Lindell at airwaterhealing.com.
Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani, and this is the Rudy Giuliani Show. After, again, a very consequential weekend, and this time domestically here in the United States, in the great state of Texas. And quite a surprise, wasn't it? It really was quite a surprise because, this happened largely between 4 and 5 or 5:30 in the morning. 4 to 5:30 in the morning. That's when the major impact took place that, certainly that affected the Camp Mystic, which was, I guess, the epicenter of the damage that was done. Although the numbers now are getting larger, it's up to about, tragically, 95 people dead, 26 or 27 from the camp. You're looking at the Guadalupe River. The Guadalupe River comes in way down south in the Gulf of America, and then kind of in a snake-like pattern comes up north in Texas. It is prone to flooding. The thing about this that is troubling in the sense of one wonders why there weren't more long-term precautions is the fact that this is a flood-prone area. So when you hear, once every 100 years, yes, this kind of a tremendous damage is once every 100 years, but flooding is very frequent. You've got to separate the emergency preparations here between those that are long-term and those that react to something that happens in a spur of a moment, and therefore probably has no preparation for that other than good training. A flash fire, for example, you could have the best fire department, you could have the best fire equipment, and the flash fire is going to happen. Then the question is, can you or can you not contain it? Like the fires in Los Angeles, were they or were they not able to contain it? Here, if we're going to critique this eventually, it'll be on a few things that could have been necessary, that could have been useful in an area that is flood prone. The most important one being when they voted on and voted down a siren. That community, particularly the one right around the camps, had some time ago, about a decade and a half ago, had a big debate about whether to have sirens, and they were voted down. And at this point, they could have. There's also a significant amount of electronic equipment they could have had that I could have recommended for them, which I used to do. But I'm going to tell you the truth. And this is a May, and a May is worth it. It may not have saved a single life. It may not. This happened like that, 4 to 4:30 at night. From what I can tell, and of course it could change if we get more data, until we got into the sleeping hours of that night, this did not look like it was going to be that kind of flood. It looked like it was going to be a bad flood, like many they had, and this tremendous surge that took place right before the camp was not predictable. Now, it didn't take place anyplace else except right there. So let's see if we can take a look at it. We'll connect our map up, and you've got some pictures of it, right, Ted? Well, there's the state of Texas, well known. I mean, that shape is probably known all over the world. I don't know if that map is large enough for you to see it, but if you look over on the far right, you'll see where the river, and it's the smaller of the two that goes down and comes up, and it comes out of the Gulf. I probably have better maps for it if we can get them hooked up. Maps that will show it to you a little bit more clearly than that. But this was a storm. From what I can tell, up until last Thursday, the storm had not been catastrophic. It was affecting the Gulf Coast, leading over toward Texas, and there's a little bit of a ambiguity here. On Wednesday of last week, there was a suggestion that there would be a storm. That's the earliest possible real suggestion that something like this could happen. We haven't been able to get the exact nature of that. We don't have this document itself, but it was a fairly ambiguous document, just that there would be storms along the river. Nothing about the catastrophe. Nothing about a catastrophe, and nothing about having to evacuate, and nothing about that there might be massive flash flooding. So that was and they predicted. They did predict. Then by Wednesday, they predicted 3 to 6 inches of rain in the hill country. Maybe 4 to 8 to 6 to 3 to 6 inches of rain in that area in general. And then finally, press conference at 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, they predicted there's going to be a rapid runoff, and there were flash floodings, warnings that went into effect starting at 1:20 p.m. on Thursday. And that affected the whole area, including the area around Kerryville, which is where Camp Mystic and the other camps are located. Now, the camps, when I say that, we're talking about pretty congested camp area. It's an area that I guess is favored by the people of Texas as a place to send their children for summer camp. This happened to be a Christian, associated with a prominent Christian church. Mrs. Bush, Laura Bush, was a camp counselor in this camp. It's 100 years old. And I guess it's quite distinguished. And Ted has a friend that spent 10 years there. We're trying to get her on the phone. I mean, she wasn't there then, but as a young girl, she spent 10 years at this camp. It's quite a well-known camp. And there are several others, boys camps, boys and girls camps, specialized camps, in addition to many vacationers and 4th of July, people celebrating the 4th of July all along the river, all along that river. And ready for a storm. And when they went to bed at night, they were expecting problems, but they weren't expecting that they were going to go underwater in some places. Now, in Camp in most of the camps, there was some damage. And in that camp, there was some damage. But of course, it did the most damage in the lowlands right next to the water. And another question we raise is, they had two sets of dormitories. They had dormitories for the young children and dormitories for the senior children. The dormitories for the young children were on the lowland, and the dormitories for the senior children were on the higher land. You're going to see me do it reversed. Now, I know we're playing Monday morning quarterback, but we're not doing that because maybe we would have foreseen this before either. We're doing that so that when they rebuild the Don thing, maybe there should be some consideration given to the fact that there's a lot of flooding in this area. The major problem really was, if you want there you can see it, what was happening on a minor scale. What we don't get to see, what's happening between 4 and 5:30 on Saturday morning. In the morning, we don't get to see that. And that it was an overwhelming surge way above the level of the land that came right over into the lowlands of the camp. And it almost seemed like it was directed right for the camp. There were several other surges right before it, right after it. They did some damage. They killed some people. But as you can see, it moves along, it moves along, it moves along. And then in certain places, it surges. And that's where you get your catastrophic damage. That's where you get the dormitory wiped out, the house wiped out. And then it'll move along, and you'll get damage at the edges. You might get a little damage, but you won't get the massive categorical damage. So as we look at the river, we see a lot of inconsistencies. And it happened in the middle of the night, in the middle of the darkness, and the worst spot in a big area is the way one of the rescue workers put it. Actually, the lieutenant governor said that. And the original forecast was for heavy rains. Should the forecast have been more pointed? Should there have been a better system for warning people in the middle of the night? Mm-hmm. Would it have worked? Only God knows. When you're talking about a system that wakes people up, probably, it would have worked if they were heavily trained, if there were like fire drills and exercises, and everybody knew exactly where to go and how to go there. And then again, they say it variously, 4 to 4:30, 4 to 5, 4 to 5:30. Now, if that flash flood hit so fast that even if there was a warning, they wouldn't have gotten out there in time, no matter whether you had the best warning system in the world, you could have still lost everybody. There are times in which nature wins, and there are times in which you can reduce the possibility of nature winning, but you're not ever 100%. And I did emergency work for 25 years, and I can tell you, when you think you're 100%, that's when you make your worst mistakes. With that exception, this was an excellent emergency response that, in the long run, has saved an incalculable number of lives. They have retrieved more people than one would think possible in the period of time they had and the warning that they had of this. We're talking about thousands and thousands of people that they got out of harm's way, children that they recovered. It's the one area where they were hit with almost dawn, massive surge that hit in one area much worse than any place else, that defeated them, I guess one would say. But as to the rest, their work has been remarkable. Now, they are pushing 100 deaths, at least 30 are children. The plurality of them are in Kerr County, which is the county that contains the camp that we're talking about. Those are the beautiful children that were sacrificed. I don't know. It's extremely hard, isn't it? Extremely hard watching that, Ted. One wants to report on something else.
Oh, the worst thing imaginable.
Secretary Noem was at first quite critical of the warning system. And look, that's her job. She said it was an ancient system to warn the public of potential weather threats. And she's right. It was an ancient system. And there should have been a better system. And I went through, and I'm going to take you through, if you don't mind, the prior history here, because it only goes back to 2016. This, as I said, this area was an area that was prone to flooding. They had floods here going back to the 19th century, and probably before that, not even noted, right? I mean, it would have, in those days, it would have taken some kind of a flood approaching Noah for anybody to report on it, right? You just dealt with floods. That's what happens when you live near the river or the water. But they had floods back in the 19th century. So they had a bit of a history of it. They had periodic floods. And at the time, there was a sheriff, I think he's still around, Sheriff Rusty Hierholzer, who had been a young deputy during the 1987 flood that killed 10 passengers at a camp in nearby Kendall County. And based on that, he was always very, very nervous about the failure to have a first-rate, well-organized notification system. So in 2016, he came up with a plan. And I'm sorry, in 2016, there were deadly floods in somewhat further away parts of Texas. And as a result of that, he dug out his old proposal, got a lot of support for it, and went to a March 26, 2016 meeting of the county commissioners. And he recommended a warning system, a much larger, a much bigger, full warning system, and not to rely just upon notifications to telephones and to an internet. And they had a wireless alert system that the county relied on, but it wasn't complete. Not all summer camps were connected to it. And for reasons that are, I guess, going to be looked at again, it was voted down. And he was quite upset about it and pushed it very, very hard. He has not been interviewed now. He sounds like he's quite a Texas gentleman. And I guess he's not going to be, I told you so, but he very well could, I guess, huh? And maybe in a good way, so that it gets taken care of. You know, right away. The number of children have now gone up, but pretty quickly, 7 girls were found all together in one group very, very early on Saturday morning. And I mean, from that point on, this became a national catastrophe. You know about the 2 little girls who were found holding their hands. They were holding their hands, and there were about 6 or 7 that were all clustered together. And there we're talking about the ones who were in the lower area of it's quite a large campground, but there are 2 sides of the river, and on one side of the river it's very lowland, and the youngsters' camp is there, and then you go up a hill. This is called the hill country also of Texas. You've all heard of that, right? And it goes up to a hill, and up on the hill is where the seniors are. So the seniors, by and large, the water didn't reach there. So Ted and I, just playing our own security director, said, why would you build it that way? Why would you put the less experienced, who would have a harder time knowing on their own what to do, than the more experienced, who might have had a better chance? Just a thing to also keep aside for the rebuilding of this camp. Or maybe everybody should be put on the high ground. You get away from the low ground, because then you take a look over the years. How far off that river has it ever done damage? I don't know it that well. I don't know if it's ever done a flood that reached into the town, or I don't get the sense that it has. It doesn't look like it's that big a river. But that I haven't had a chance to research. So I'm going to take a short break, and then I'm going to connect up the map that shows you where all these places are. That's my own, that I work with, so that I can do a better job of showing this to you and telling you what I think is going to happen. Given the fact that we're talking about probably one of the better run states in the country. And again, I know it's difficult when you see the numbers that died originally, and you'll see some more, but this was an excellent emergency effort. Remember, September 11, according to the committee that studied it and was critical in some ways, said it was the best rescue effort in the history of the country, even though we lost almost 3,000 people. Now, why is that? Because the emergency workers couldn't really do very much about the people that were above the fire. I was told that in the first half hour, and all of a sudden, what my chief told me, will get everybody below the fire, ends up in the report 5 years later. The report says almost the same thing as Chief Gansey. They saved everyone they could save. And I think, I don't know if I can say that about this, but what I can say is, don't let the very, very well done rescue effort of the people who came in after that initial surprise, don't let that be in any way affected by if there was a mistake made. There probably is no effort like this where there isn't one. So their efforts, including the Coast Guard officer who we're going to mention in a minute, who saved some incredible number of people. These efforts have to be noted. We'll be back right after this message.
With everybody talking about making America healthy again, I thought today'd be a great day to talk to all my fellow patriots about the importance of making your homes healthy again. Well, we have proudly partnered with airwaterhealing.com and their revolutionary whole home air purification system. The V3 from Air Water Healing does 3,000 square feet of purification. It eliminates dust, mold, viruses, and odors. But here's the part I love. They require no filters to ever be changed and virtually no maintenance. Whether you suffer from asthma, allergies, seasonal bronchitis, or just want to protect your family from the flu or even greater threats, don't wait to get your V3 from airwaterhealing.com today. Use code Lindell for 20% off in savings and free shipping. That's promo code Lindell at airwaterhealing.com.
Friends, we all know the truth. Big Pharma and the federal bureaucracy have made a mess of healthcare in this country, and boy, that's an understatement. President Trump signed an executive order to bring prices down, and that's a great step. But we know that real change takes time. There's one pharmacy that is already stepping up. I want to tell you about All Family Pharmacy. They're not waiting. They're taking action now with a summer sale that gives you the power to take control of your health. Right now, through the end of June, you get 20% off site-wide, no insurance required. Did you hear that? 20% off, site-wide, no insurance required. They work with licensed doctors in all 50 states, and they ship fast straight to your door. Whether it's ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue, antibiotics, emergency kits, or your daily prescriptions, this is a time to stock up. If you believe in medical freedom, if you're tired of waiting for someone else to fix things, do what I do. Take action. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell and use promo code Lindell20, Lindell 20 for 20% off your entire order. That's allfamilypharmacy.com Lindell. Promo code Lindell20. Let's protect our families, defend our freedom, and make America healthy again together.
The last time President Trump was in office, gold soared 50% and silver went up a huge 53%. Americans who invested in silver and gold during Donald Trump's first presidency are very happy that they did it. And right now, gold continues to soar to the highest numbers in history. These gains are just an appetizer for what's to come. Some market analysis are saying that gold is predicted to rise another 30% in the next year alone. So now's the time to invest in gold and silver, and that's why I partnered with Fisher Liberty Gold. Fisher Liberty Gold is a conservative-owned and operated precious metals investment company. They even helped my good friend President Trump get elected through their contributions to Turning Point USA and other conservative groups. I have dedicated my life to ensuring that people get the best sleep ever. And in addition to owning a MyPillow, I can now sleep well at night knowing that you can all protect your savings with precious metals with Fisher Liberty Gold. With Fisher Liberty Gold, you can sleep well knowing that your retirement is secure. And if you call now, you're going to receive your very own presidential gold guide and qualify for up to $20,000 in free silver. But wait, there's more. Call now or text metals to 26786 to receive your presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty. And for a limited time, I will send you a free MyPillow for qualified accounts. This presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty will tell you exactly why you need to own gold even while Donald Trump is president. And just by calling in, you get a free MyPillow for a limited time for qualified accounts and up to $20,000 in free silver. So don't wait. Call 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today. That's 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today to receive your free MyPillow and up to $20,000 in free silver. Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at NirvantaHealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to NirvantaHealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally.
It's been another busy day here at the White House. In a press briefing today, Caroline Leavitt opened with a heartfelt response to the devastating floods that have sadly taken Texas by storm. Regretfully, HSI is reporting that 91 innocent souls have tragically perished and mentioned the White House is currently arranging travel plans for Trump to visit the wreckage in Kerr County, Texas. Levitt also addressed the politicization of the deadly flash floods that have unfortunately taken place. Not shockingly, Chuck Schumer and other Democrats are using the disaster as an opportunity to place the blame on Trump. Levitt called this a depraved lie to blame President Trump for any shortcomings in the response, emphasizing that such accusations were unhelpful during a time of national mourning. She went on to reaffirm that the National Weather Service did its job in doing a timely and precise forecast and warning. This after President Trump signed a major disaster declaration for Kerr County in an effort to provide federal disaster assistance. It will also make federal funding available to government agencies and nonprofit organizations for emergency work. In other big news, President Trump is meeting with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Though this meeting is close to the press, Caroline Levitt touched on President Trump's top priority.
The utmost priority for the president right now in the Middle East is to end the war in Gaza and to return all of the hostages. Also, as you know, there was a ceasefire proposal that Israel supports that was sent to Hamas, and we hope that they will agree to this proposal. We want to see all of the hostages released. That's on the top of the president's mind, so that will be discussed, as well as the many other positive developments we've seen in the Middle East.
This meeting comes as Arab Muslim tribal leaders from Hebron, the largest Palestinian city in Judea and Samaria, are openly now admitting they no longer want a Palestinian state and instead want peace with Israel. There was also a major update on trade and tariffs during today's briefing. Caroline Levitt highlighting that today's executive order signing will create a customized trade plan for each individual country. Now, this will ultimately delay the current July 9th deadline, pushing it to August 1st in an effort to cut the best deal for the American people. As of now, trade letters have been mailed out to Japan and South Korea, both of whom will receive a 25% tariff rate effective August 1st. Additionally, BRICS-aligned nations will be hit with an additional 10% tariff in yet another effort by the president to ensure America is treated fairly on the world stage. But perhaps one of the biggest questions on the minds of MAGA is one that still remains unanswered.
The FBI looks at the circumstances surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. According to the report, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network, on Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But again, when it comes to the FBI and the Department of Justice, they are more than committed to ensuring that bad people are put behind bars.
So that's it? No client list? Epstein killed himself? No further investigations? Case closed? Well, let me ask you this. If Jeffrey Epstein didn't have a client list and there was no foul play on his private island and he didn't actually take part in any blackmail schemes, then why would Jeffrey Epstein kill himself? Something isn't quite adding up here. But the question is, will we ever get any real answers? That is yet to be determined. Reporting for Liddell TV, live from the White House, I'm Allison Steinberg.
Well, Allison is quite right to raise that issue. The answers are not satisfactory. It makes no sense that there's no list. Now, I did have the impression that they had a list for quite some time. We also heard a lot of off-the-record comments about that list. But there's also a second list that they have to have. That airplane went down to that perverted island. I don't know how many times. We're told 27 times with former President Clinton. 27 times. Clinton denies going more than a few times. Now, you generally would have to say, in anything controversial, the general rule would be Bill Clinton is lying. So where we would give the benefit of the doubt to someone else, in the case of Clinton, odds are he's lying, because he lies about this stuff all the time. And he sounds like he was an intimate of this man. I mean, he had a picture of him dressed up in high heels and a dress, and of Clinton dressed up in high heels and a dress in his perverted mansion where he did all kinds of weird stuff. So where's that list? Where are the manifests for the numerous flights down to Perverts Island? they're gone too. And he kept no list of his customers. And he kept no incriminating evidence to protect himself. Guy's a very smart, shrewd guy. It needs more than a just general brush-off explanation with all of the things the public was led to believe. And somebody should take us through the way he killed himself, because it doesn't seem possible. It seems, I've been trying to get an answer for years over how is it that the Department of Buildings official who sits at the Sentry Post and monitors the monitors didn't see that several of them were out for 10, 12 hours. Was it more than one that sat on that post? Was it two? I don't know. Are they dealing with helping disadvantaged people, and they use blind people to look at the monitors? Who knows? It was an extremely way beyond negligent performance by the Bureau of Prisons. Everybody went to sleep and the cameras went out for 12 hours. It doesn't happen in a high security prison with probably the most at-risk prisoner in the system at the time. Just to have an answer, there is no list, and it was a suicide. That gets you no further than you were, 3 years ago, 4 years ago when it all came out. Nobody believed it. Because what this requires is explaining it. Let's put it this way. The public does not believe the Justice Department. That may not be right. Maybe they should. Maybe they shouldn't, but they don't. And you're just going to continue that by giving them brush-off answers. It may be the right answer, but you haven't shown it. So let's go back for a moment, and we'll show you, to the best we can, what happened. So let's look at this map of Texas. It'll show you your typical, I think almost everybody in the world knows the shape of Texas, right? There's Texas. Now, this is roughly, it comes in over here. The Guadalupe River comes in over here, and I believe goes below San Antonio up to Camp, and goes up this way and comes down that way. So, and there are other rivers, by the way, coming in. I mean, the famous one here on the border, right? But this river is not as big, but it is a river coming from the Gulf of America, recently named the Gulf of America, right there. I like putting it there. So that'll give you a sense of where it was in Texas. A couple of things that weren't marked out are Dallas is up here, and Houston, well, Austin's here, over here somewhere, right? And Houston's about there. But this was right in here, and along this area where it turns into an upper and lower Guadalupe, there were large numbers of camps, exactly, I guess, and for over 100 years, they were listed there. And this is a close-up of exactly how it happened there. When it came into the area, you'll see the Guadalupe River flowing from east to west along here. And and you see several of the camps that were affected. And one part of the river goes up slightly north and then proceeds west, but north of the other part of the river. And the other part of the river, called the South Fork of the Guadalupe River, descends rather abruptly south here. And here's where There were actually several eruptions in this here, much smaller ones. Maybe over here. And they did damage on both sides. But then the massive one took place right here, and the camp was right in this area. And then it went on, and of course it did damage going all the way down the river. And that's what the poor people of Texas are digging out of right now. There's another way to see it from, you can see from all the way down here where it comes in to all the way up here, Kerrville. So it's largely equidistant between Austin and San Antonio. Beautiful country, a terrible tragedy. I don't know how to express my feelings to the poor people of that area who were such good people. I saw my good friend, Lieutenant Governor Dan Henry on, and we may still get him on. We're calling him, he's quite busy. And we've had him on, as you know, many, many times. And I have to tell you, he's an extraordinarily hardworking man, but he looked really, really exhausted, hard to. Now, if we take a look, these are the children. Just a quick picture of them, of the children who are missing. Look at those lovely little girls. They're all 8 and 9. You see a group that are listed as dead, a group that are listed as missing. Now, this is about 20 hours old. Could be that some of the others are bodies have been found. I don't know that any have been found alive. I don't think so. So this will be, we'll be covering this for quite some time. The president is going on Friday, which is about the right time to go, so that there's got to be a delicate balance between getting there as quickly as possible, and second, getting there so that you don't interfere with the most pressing work during the period of time when you can still save lives. I remember Governor Pataki and I and President Bush spent a lot of time trying to figure out exactly when the right time was. And that was the Friday after the attack on Tuesday. So this is approximately the same amount of time, actually, if you think about it, right? It seems to be the same amount of time. We want to point out one particular person to praise, even though there probably are so many. There are pretty much. I mean, there are others that deserve, I'm sure, as much praise as this man. But he is a Coast Guard officer. His name is Scott Ruskin. He's 26 years old. This was his very first mission of this kind, helping to save lives. And he was flown into the area, and then they were going to fly on to other spots, but they had to leave somebody behind in the area of the camp. I don't think they knew how bad it was at the time. They didn't know they were leaving him with what turned out to be, over a period of a day, 165 people that he was responsible for triaging. And I think those 165 that he saved, he also recovered dead bodies. And according to the Coast Guard, he by far did the most work of any one single person. And they finally got back and got him reinforcements. But by that time, he had organized civilians into quite an effective recovery force. So Secretary Nome called him an American hero, and I'm sure he will be given the highest civilian award. Now here, we can't escape the insanity of our politics, can we? A former Houston mayoral candidate, and they've had, some of the worst mayoral candidates in the history of the world, probably challenging the communists running in New York. This one must have been a heck of a candidate. His or her name is Sade. Could be a male's name or a female's name. Perkins. Oh, and he or she didn't provide pronouns. Said in a widely condemned video that this was a camp. If you ain't white, you ain't right, and you ain't getting in. You ain't going, period, Perkins said, as the death toll was being described to her. I mean, some people just can't react to, I don't know, 28 children dead, at least, without warning. It's a church. Sometimes churches have large numbers of white members, large numbers of black members. It's just the way it happens. There is a black church, Sadie. But imagine if they had a camp, it'd be mostly black kids, maybe a couple of white kids. I don't think there's anything about this that suggested it was on purpose. It just happened to work out that way. Just got to cause trouble constantly, huh? Well, it is so that the Prime Minister of Israel and the President of the United States are probably right now having dinner with Mrs. Trump. Is he accompanied by Mrs. Netanyahu? Is he? So it sounds like it's going to be both a family dinner and a very important dinner. You know, what they do, they don't really have an Air Force One. They just take an El Al plane and I guess they do special things to it. Because when you get inside, it looks like it's, I don't want to tell you, but when you get inside, it looks like it's Air Force One. There's Netanyahu and his wife, I guess, taking off from Israel. They are apparently going in slightly different directions that are going to have to get readjusted. So let me see if I can explain it to you. But not now. You never know with the two of them whether they are going in slightly different directions or they're providing cover one for the other. Like, for example, when the president was being reluctant about hitting Iran, it seemed like he's being reluctant. Did he want to build a defense for himself so that, or did he want Iran to make a worse and a worse and a worse and a worse and a worse case against himself? Because given the kind of criticism he normally would have gotten for the devastating bombing and using bunker buster bombs, which are one step below a nuclear weapon, he got very little criticism for that because the justification for it was built up and the reluctance to do it was built up over a period of 2 to 3 months. Now, in that particular circumstance, Bibi played the bad guy and the president played the good guy. And I personally believe that was orchestrated. I do not believe that was a legitimate dispute. They probably do look at this somewhat differently because they have slightly different objectives in mind. Both of them have the objective of stopping Iran permanently from being a nuclear power. And both of them are equally fervent about that. It would have to be that Bibi is more fervent about it. Because for Bibi, it's a matter of life and death. For Trump, it could be a matter of life and death. Remember, they say death to Israel. Well, that's easily available to them if they have nuclear weapons. Death to the United States is a big step for them, or complete annihilation. They have brought a lot of death to the United States. They've killed thousands of Americans. And we have been very inappropriately easy on them, and through most administrations, positively engaged in appeasement. So the president doesn't have to, in the eyes of Americans, be reluctant to completely decapitate them. In fact, that would be justice. But of course, he has so much else that he wants to accomplish. He doesn't want this to make it impossible to put together peace in the Middle East. And the way he handled the bombing of Iran, I think, was more to not divide from the possible future Abraham Accords, Saudi Arabia. You still have Syria that's promised to do it, but they haven't done it. A couple of other countries. So he has that objective in mind also. Probably they both have both objectives in mind, but Bibi's objective is, 80% no nuclear for Iran and 20% let's get peace, because he feels he can always do that. The president is probably 50-50 on the two. He doesn't want to eliminate Iran and then eliminate also the possibility of peace in the Middle East. He wants to do it in a way that he'll be able to create room for Saudi Arabia to come in, which will be hard, even under the best of circumstances, and also some room for the smaller countries, which will probably be easier. And they're on their way to doing it. So they have to work that out now. Where are they going to go with the Hamas situation? Bibi is committed to, we're not getting out of Gaza until Hamas is a thing of the past. That might not be able to be accomplished 100% in the time frame that exists, or with the level of feigned but very, very real anger at Israel for theoretically the atrocities that they've committed in Gaza, which in fact are nothing in comparison to the atrocities that have been committed in other wars, including by the United States. The level of civilians killed actually proportionally is less than the level of proportions we killed in any of our wars. They are nothing in comparison to the level of civilians the Russians are killing in Ukraine. And of course, some very large percentage of the civilians killed in Gaza are killed because of the Palestinians, because they placed themselves in a way that they'll be killed. And they're trained to do that from the day they're born. So he still has to deal with the fact that the reality is that that's held against Israel by all of Europe. And somehow we got to get beyond that. So I think they're getting together because they want to come out with, it's going to probably be a very intricate plan, and only the two of them will know how much of it is the good guy, bad guy, the good cop, bad cop, and how much of it is real. I would say the chances that they're separated by too much is very, very little. There's also a very interesting proposal that you have to look at, because this may be the product of very, very good intelligence work on the part of Israel for sure, and I would say the United States. So there's a there is a second part to the Palestinian Authority. We talk all the time about Gaza. Gaza is in the south. Gaza is the area right on the Mediterranean. Gaza could be a great, great destination. And in ancient times, it was. In fact, when it was given to the brutal Palestinians, it was a beautiful place, and they've ruined it. Now, you have to realize that the problem with the Palestinians is not just Hamas. Hamas is the super problem. But the Jordanians and the Egyptians, from whence they come, because there were no Palestinians 150 years ago. There was a place called Palestine. There were no people known as Palestinians. They were Jordanians. They were not even Jordanians. Jordanians is a creation of the British. They were Syrians. Yasser Arafat Yasser Arafat was very open about this. He claims he created the Palestinians. But he was an Egyptian by birth. And hence part of the problem. The Palestinians were, to a person, part of the Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood is a to the death enemy of the president of Egypt. So you think he wants Palestinians in Egypt? No. He doesn't allow them in, and when they do come in, he sends them back very quickly. He sends them food. He sends them humanitarian supplies. He'll help them get to another country, but he won't take one in. There's another person who won't take one in. That's the president of Jordan. He hasn't taken him in for 40 years, since they killed his grandfather. And he is married to a Palestinian. Got to be uncomfortable, huh? I wonder if she says, you think you'd take in some of my, countrymen? And he says, no, man, I'm not going to take them. And the last time they were here, they killed a hell of a lot of us. Look what they did to Lebanon. They wiped it out. I mean, they're just plain murderers. And she would say, well, just Hamas. And he would say, don't be naive, which we are. But that doesn't mean, as I've told you many, many times, there aren't some Palestinians who are dedicated to peace. They're few and far between and hard to find. And if you come over to X now for America's Mayor Live, we'll tell you about a very, very interesting proposal, maybe the most surprising one since the start of this war. So we'll see you on X at 8 o'clock. We'll see you back here at 7 tomorrow. God bless America.